Welcome back. As I sometimes do, I'm going to try to go through a master level game and try to learn something from it. In this case, it was from the Women's Speed Chess Championship 2022, which hopefully you can see on your screen. I caught a little bit of this live on YouTube, and the bracket's not showing up on chess.com for some reason, but here's a list of the players who were in it, including Hou Yifan from China, which I think she is the second highest rated woman player of all time, behind Judith Polgar, 4-time women's world champion. And I happened to catch the match between her and Carissa Yip, who is an international master, and I think she's only 18 or 19, but earned her international master title fairly early, around 12 or 14, something like that. I was pretty impressed with the blitz and even the bullet games that they played. There's some pictures of the women involved, and decided to go through this master game. And let's take a look. Okay, I chose this particular game because it started with D4. At the bottom is Magician for MA. That's Carissa Yip. MA, I believe, stands for Massachusetts. And at the top is Yifan. So, and I don't know if Hou or Yifan is the name that I should call her by. I know that many Asian names, the family name comes first. That's why I put all the names up here instead of just what I thought was the last name. But anyway, this game started with D4 and the very popular response knight to F6. This was a 5+1 bullet game, which is they did several of those. Then they did 3+1 rapid blitz games, 5+1 blitz. Then they did several 3+1 blitz and then 1+1 bullets. And Yifan won this match pretty handily, but let's see how it goes and see if we can learn anything from this. I picked one of the longer games because in blitz, the 3-minute games and 1-minute games, I could still probably learn something, but I don't expect them to be quite so impressive as the slightly longer games. So anyway, Carissa Yip played C4, which is a good move in that position, and Yifan played E6, which I think was the top engine recommended move. I've been in almost this exact position quite a few times, although I'm usually playing with the black pieces. When I'm playing with white and open with D4, if you've been paying attention, I almost always follow with knight to F6, depending on what black does. If black tries the England gambit, which is moving E5 here, then I know that the best move is to take it. But generally, when black responds this way, I play knight to F3 first and reserve C4. But I understand that C4 is considered one of the better moves in this position. And when I play with the black pieces, this is almost always what I play. So this part I am familiar with. I understand that white's trying to control center squares, and black is also trying to control center squares with these pieces. And here, this pawn move also opens the bishop on this diagonal to come down through here. Now here it says, the book listing on chess.com says this is the Indian game, East Indian defense. But as soon as Carissa Yip plays G3, it's now transposed into the Catalan opening. I may do a separate video about transpositions, just that one subject, because that's very fascinating to me. How you can be playing the Indian game, East Indian defense, and you make one move and suddenly you're in the Catalan. That's fairly fascinating to me. Anyway, I don't think I've ever played the Catalan, possibly in a couple of daily games just as experimentation, because I've heard it's really good. I'm not familiar with this. I'm much more familiar with getting this pawn out of the way and putting my light squared bishop here in the middle. But Yifan did not respond. I'm going to go ahead and, can I show the engine here? There it is. Those are the 3 best moves listed by Stockfish. Bishop to E7, preparing to castle. D5, contesting the center. And the fairly common move, bishop to B4, which is what I would expect to see in this position, which then requires either the bishop or the knight to block that check. I suppose the knight could also block here. But Yifan played C5, which I think it still says it's the Catalan opening here, but I've been told that like when you play c5 against d5 here, that this is more like a Benoni or something, but maybe it's just a Benoni structure, or maybe this is a common response to the Catalan. I don't know. It wasn't listed as one of the top 3 moves. Regardless, if you can see the evaluation bar on the left, yes, you can. That move actually gave Carissa a fairly decent advantage, but she needs to play d5 here. I guess d5 would exert more center control, plus it gets out of the way of this bishop. I guess, but that's what she has a +7 advantage if she plays that here. But instead, she played probably what I would have played, which is here, and that took away most of her advantage. And now Yifan needs to capture here, which she does. Okay. I'm fairly familiar with this up to this point, even though, as I said, I haven't played the Catalan a lot. This pawn really didn't figure into what's happened so far, so I do understand what's going on here, and I assume you would take back. Yeah, the engine says that's the only good move, and so that's what she does. Now, Black has several possible responses here that maintain about the same amount of advantage, with d5 being... No, d5 is this one. With d5 being the best possible move according to Stockfish. Bishop to c5, which I guess directly hits this knight. Knight to c6. Okay, I think I would have... If I were Black, I would probably play knight to c6 here. I don't know. I think I might just be tempted to play this bishop out and castle at this point if I were playing with black pieces. If I were playing with the white pieces, I honestly would be nervous about this and haven't castled yet. But let's see. Yifan puts the knight on c6, which was one of the top 3 moves that was listed. Okay. And now Carissa Yip has several choices. She can put this bishop here, which is... Wait. Now the book says English opening. When did that change? Okay, right here, it was still listed as the Catalan. But as soon as she took that pawn, now it's transposed to the English opening. Symmetrical, anti-Benoni, Spielman defense. That's what it says. Okay, well, we know the English opening is when you first begin with c4. So apparently there is a line in the English in which you started with c4, but that ends up in this position. Some variation of the English opening. Okay, so that has changed. I just realized that. All right, so that knight came out, and now she has the choice of putting the bishop here, of trading off this knight, which I think if you traded off the knight, that would give Black an extra center pawn, or an extra pawn that's focusing on the center squares. Or knight to c3 here. Because you don't have to worry about this knight because your queen is protecting it, I assume. And Carissa plays this. Okay, I think that's what I would have done, having already pushed the g-pawn. Here I know that this knight is not in danger, this pawn is not in danger, it's protecting a center square. My queen has opened, but I'm not too worried about that. I know that if Black plays this, I've got that. And since we already pushed the g-pawn, it makes sense to put the bishop here. Otherwise, these squares are just too weak. I wouldn't have known that a year ago, but I've definitely learned that pushing these king pawns, it's very serious weakening of the squares around this. And you want to go ahead and get castled pretty soon. Okay, and as Black, I'm not sure what I would do here. I would probably be tempted to very slowly move these pawns forward, or maybe push the b pawn so I could get my light squared bishop here. I don't know. But it says that knight to e5 is a decent move here. Best move, actually. Bishop to c5, or just bishop to e7. And I think that might be what I would play as Black if I had some time to think about it. But if you can see the clocks on the screen, Carissa has only used 10 seconds of this game so far. And Yifan has used less than 30 seconds, and we're already on move 6. Okay, Yifan played one of those best moves, directly challenging the knight. Now that knight is being hit twice, I think it's probably time to pull it back. Is that... Oh, no, Carissa Yip did not play one of those top three moves. She put it out there, which I'm not sure. I guess you're aiming in here? No, you can't be yet because the bishop's guarding that square. Doesn't that just get hit with a6? No, it doesn't. Okay, well, then why was it bad? It's bad because black can now play d5. That's what it's suggesting as the top engine move, but I think if I were black, I would not play d5 here. I think I would play a6, and then, of course, I would be lost, but d5, because white has 3 pieces guarding that. But I guess black has 3 pieces that would be guarding d5 as well. All of those pieces would be guarding d5. So, okay. Is that what she played? That is what Yifan played. Okay. Well, and that takes care of any problems with trying to come in here, because now the queen is guarding that spot even if this bishop moves. And now your knight is definitely in danger of getting hit with a6, I would assume. Although it could always come back, right? I don't know. Well, it says to go ahead and take that. Is that what she did? Or castle? What did... Oh. Carissa Yip put her bishop out here on b4, which was not great. She's looking at that. That's what it was. Yeah. She kept thinking about that square, but that's the only reason I can think of to put this bishop here. I don't know, because black is guarding that square pretty well. Well, regardless, the computer says black should play e5 now. Just go ahead and tell that bishop to go back where it came from. Or castle, and Yifan castles here. So, good opening principles. You want to get your king to safety within the first 10 moves. Pretty good advice. Both players still have pieces on their back rank, I've noticed. Both players still have rooks that haven't moved and minor pieces that haven't moved. And, of course, their queens are still on the back rank. Okay, and Carissa Yip should definitely castle here, which she does. I'm thinking she probably also wants to get this knight over here to complete the fianchetto setup. Maybe. This knight probably can't get there. Well, I guess it could. But it would be faster for this back knight to get there. Okay, yeah, see, now Stockfish is suggesting a6. Tell that knight, make a decision. Go someplace useful. But Yifan does not play that. She plays the second best move, which is d4, which still maintains an advantage. Okay, now both players, I didn't catch when it happened, but both players slowed down at some point. Because those first 5 or 6 moves they had played in 10 seconds or so, but they've been thinking since then, because now we're down. Carissa Yip's used more than a minute, and Yifan has used more than 2 minutes. By move 9. So somewhere between move 5 and move 9, they slowed down quite a bit. Our best response here is e3. Or just trade off the bishop for that knight. Is that knight really that strong? I guess that knight is hitting multiple things, as well as the possibility of coming down here. And wait, I don't understand that suggestion from Stockfish. Because I was under the impression that when you move the g-pawn, it's weakened these squares so much that you really need this bishop right here protecting those light squares in front of your king. But yeah, Stockfish says second best move is to take that. First best move is e3. What did Carissa Yip... Okay, that was the plan that I said a couple of moves ago, right? That's what I would have done. Stockfish didn't like it a lot, but it wasn't a blunder. And it makes me feel better that an international master played what I might have played in that situation. And now e5 needs to happen, and that is what Yifan plays, telling the bishop, pick a spot. Probably not that one, because there's a pawn. I guess there's not many choices. Bishop to g5, and that is what Yip plays, because she was out of choices. All right, now what do you do here? Again, Stockfish wants a6. I suggested that a while back to kick that knight out. But Yifan does not play that. She plays the next move, which is, okay, breaking this pin. This pin here is strong enough that Stockfish and Yifan thought it was important to not have the queen on the back side of that. Maybe this knight's going to need to move at some point, and you don't want the queen to be on the back side. That makes sense. Stockfish says go ahead and take it. And that's what Carissa Yip does. Okay. I've seen this a lot. Do you see that? Top suggestion, a little bit stronger, according to Stockfish, than taking with the bishop, is taking with the g-pawn. And I've seen this in the evaluations of my own games when I've been in a very similar position, and I just could not bring myself to take with the g-pawn. Oh no, it's changed its mind. It's a lot stronger now. Why is that better? Anybody who's watching this that's a higher level player than me, feel free to explain why in many of these positions Stockfish suggests taking with the g-pawn. Because this, I mean, you just put the bishop there. If the bishop wasn't there, I think it would make plenty of sense to have taken with the queen. Right now, if you take with the bishop, well, then your bishop's kind of pointing at the backside of these pawns, and I understand why that's not great. But how does opening up your king, that just opens this g-file completely. And yes, I know we can't get there immediately, but I mean, once this pawn moves, our queen's coming right there up that g-file. But yeah, Stockfish says that's the best. But Yifan believes, similarly to me, that that's not great. She takes with the bishop, which I think is what I mean, that's what I would have done there, right? Okay. That's what Stockfish suggests, c5. What does that do? And I'm only really looking at it because my move list says that's what Carissa Yip played. What? But why is that the best move here? I don't see what that does. Like, honestly, I'm seeing that right now this pawn is guarding that square, and it looks like it would be a nice place to put the bishop if you ever moved it from here. But what does c5 do? Maybe you want to have it there when you play b5 to guard it from behind. I'm not sure, but that's what she played, and that was the best move according to Stockfish. Really not sure what that does. And that, as I said before, it's misplaced because it's just pointing at the back end of its own pawn. This is like putting a powerful warrior just stuck behind one of the serfs or peasants that you put at the front. And the peasant's carrying a pitchfork, and you've got a long-range rifle, but the peasant's just in your way. So yeah, it makes sense to move this now. And then, of course, you can put another peasant, you know. So Yifan plays the best move there. And Carissa Yip plays the best move here. Okay, that makes sense. Although I don't know why b5 was not suggested, because that's what I thought when we played c5. I thought b4 was coming. But I guess not. Rook c1 guards that pawn. I guess you're expecting this file to open up. It's open on the other side already. But it's semi-open from black's perspective, but it's not. Your rook is just staring at the back of that pawn. But I guess if they ever move this pawn and you trade him off, then you've opened a file for your rook, I guess. But now it's suggesting a6 again. Okay, well that makes me feel better because I said early on I would play a6 to get rid of that knight, and Stockfish has said that's the top move several times. Yifan keeps missing it. And she's a grandmaster, not a women's grandmaster, but a grandmaster. And but she plays one of the top moves, which is finally developing this bishop, because now Carissa Yip has developed all her pieces. She's done everything except connect the rooks, all the opening principles. Whereas Yifan still does not have has not developed this bishop yet, so she chooses to do it now, which was one of the top 3 moves. It said to put it either here or here, f5 or e6, and she chose that one. Which I guess keeps this knight from coming out. Maybe it's looking to reroute in here to threaten that bishop. Maybe that's one of the ideas here. But in general, I mean, that's better than being on the back rank. It points down 2 fairly long diagonals. Not the actual longest light square diagonal on the board, but that's a pretty lengthy diagonal, and that one's medium-sized, I would say. So I guess that's a good place for the bishop. Okay, knight to c4. That's the top suggestion. She's just moved this bishop here, guarding that spot, and now we want to go ahead and put a knight in that spot, and that is what Carissa Yip played. What are we looking for here? Are we looking to come in here and clear the rook's file that way? Maybe that's what it is. But no, Stockfish says to take it. But she didn't. Yifan didn't take it. She played f5. That gives them equality. Well, I thought about f5 earlier when I said when we moved this bishop back, I thought that's because you probably want to play this. Get some of these more peasants out in the front. But now wouldn't you? No. Now we don't want to move in there. Oh, this one can go in there. It's one of the top 3 moves. But queen to a4 is the top suggestion. That's the next suggestion. Or a3. I guess what a3 would do is give you the freedom to move this knight so that pawn wouldn't be hanging from this bishop. Okay, I understand that. Okay, and Carissa Yip played a3. To me, that just looks like you lost a place to bring one of these knights back to if you needed to bring them back. Because now the knights can't come back. Well, this one can. But that one can't go back anywhere. You're not going to go there, right? So yeah, this knight just lost a retreating square. It can only go forward from here on out. So now, does Yifan play? No. No, Yifan plays the top engine move, which is e4. Charging forward. Wow. Okay, I'm slow. I was just about to ask, wait, is nothing guarding that? But clearly f5, which she just played on the previous turn, is guarding that square. So now this bishop is done. Okay, well, I understand why that's a top move then. This bishop can no longer play because there's nowhere for it to go. Okay, I understand that. Oh, and now I'm just looking at the clocks again. We're down to 1:37 for the Grandmaster and 2 minutes for the International Master. Okay, do we still continue with this plan now? Yes, that's what Stockfish is saying is the best. Is that what she played? No. She played the 3rd best move. Yeah, Stockfish says pick a knight, either one, and put it in there. That's where you got to go right now. But if you can't see that, play b4, and that's what Carissa Yip played, which, I mean, it builds a fairly nice little outside pawn chain, I guess, and makes this bishop not doing anything that way. But yeah, you needed to come in here because now she can play a6. She finally plays a6. Okay. So Yifan is saying now you got to go back, and that knight cannot go back. Yeah, we talked about that when we played a3. This knight can only go forward, so she plays it. Okay. So that move forced her to do what Stockfish has been telling her to do this whole time. And Stockfish says just leave it there and play b5. And that's what Yifan plays. b5. Okay, that kicks out the protection of the front knight, doesn't it? Wait. Wouldn't you just take it with en passant? Or just put this knight behind it? But no, I guess then this pawn would be guarding both knights. Okay. But that's what Yifan plays. Well, this knight isn't the only guardian of the front knight, because the pawn is guarding the front knight. So you can bring this back now, I guess. B2? Or D2? Wait, no, Stockfish is saying go forward. No. No. I read that wrong. Stockfish is saying leave it there. Look at that. Knight to B7. It says to move that front knight to threaten the queen. The queen will come here. And then you can escape that way. Wait, but then wouldn't this knight still be hanging? Oh my goodness. But she plays the next best move, which is to put it back here. because you're not going to threaten it with that pawn, because that would reopen the light squared bishop, hitting this undefended knight. Okay. I get that. But Yifan definitely has an advantage, especially if she goes ahead and trades for this now. Does she do that? She does. And the only reasonable move is to take back. The only move that's not a blunder. And now this pawn is gone. You've lost this pawn, right? Yes. Okay. I understand that. I'm not completely cloudy in the head. I do understand a few things. Okay. I don't know what I would do if I were white in this situation. I look like I'm about to be overrun. And this bishop from behind is guarding this pawn. The knight and the queen are guarding this pawn. This pawn's guarding the front one. You've got a rook behind here. This thing's probably going to come over pretty soon. This is the way I normally feel when I play with the black pieces, and white's just crushing. What does white do here? It says f3. Wow. I mean, we know Stockfish is a beast. f3. Yeah, I was going to say they wouldn't take. They would push past. And then you would play f4, opening up this diagonal for your bishop. But wait, when you played f4, though, wouldn't they just take your knight? It says they wouldn't. Okay, but they didn't play that line. She played... That was a mistake. That had to have been counted as a mistake. Yeah, you can put this bishop on a much better square right here. Instead of, you don't want to trade it off for that knight. That knight has gone to an ineffectual square. And it's allowing you to put your bishop on a much more effectual square for the bishop, which basically adds to this pawn chain, prepares to make that pawn chain even longer. And yes, the bishop there would be basically just be an extra pawn, but it's a pretty powerful extra pawn. And it completes this gigantic wave of pawns that are coming down, while still threatening the knight, and threatening here or here, basically immobilizing that pawn. Is that what? Yes, and Yifan found that. Okay, I do understand that move. That makes a lot of sense. And and it also doesn't leave a lot of breathing room for Carissa Yip here, playing with the white pieces. I honestly have no idea what I would do. It says rook to b1. h3. Yes, even Stockfish is running out of options for white. Or queen to c2. Did she find? She didn't find any of those. Oh, she just took the knight back to where it was. Oh, wow. Yeah, she was just repeating moves trying to save time, I guess. And Stockfish wants to just very patiently suffocate the opponent. But I don't think Stockfish definitely is not taking into account that they're playing a blitz game and that they're down to a minute or less each. But if you had time, I definitely understand why putting the knight on e5 would be good, because, I mean, it protects these squares here where you're going to want to start pushing pawns. I get that. And queen to e6. I guess getting behind this pawn. I don't know. Or bishop to d5. Oh, it says it's not worth losing your bishop here. Go ahead and pull it back. But Yifan brought it back a little further than she should have, which lost most of her advantage. And now again we want to play f3. Oh, and this time Carissa Yip found it. Nice resource. But again, do we just push past? Yes. I think you just push past. You've blocked your own bishop. But again, you're supposed to... Okay, wow. That was the sequence we saw earlier, and Carissa Yip found it now. Opening this pretty long diagonal here. But this pawn is locked in, and it's... Well, I mean, it's not locked in. You got to move your knight someplace. Does she do that? No. Well, it's not her turn. But why doesn't... I want to know, why does not Yifan take this knight right now? That's not even listed as one of the top moves. Rook a to c8 is the top move listed, and that's what Yifan played. Well, okay, that makes sense, right? It gets the rook out of this line. It puts the rook behind here, and is eyeing its counterpart on the opposite side of the board. And Carissa Yip finds her best move here, which is to put the knight back there, even though, again, this bishop can hit it. Is it the best? Yes, it's the best to put the bishop back on c4, and that's what Yifan does. They both have less than a minute now. Rook to e1. Is that to get it out of this pen? And to help guard this pawn? That's not what she plays, though. What does she play? That's a mistake. Because you still needed that bishop there, I guess. And of course the rook captures back. Much better than the queen capturing back. I'm not sure exactly why. But it was. Wait, did I? Okay, if the queen captured back, that would have left this pawn undefended, right? Can we go back to that and see what the... Oh yeah, if the queen captured, then white would get this pawn. Okay, but Yifan captured with the rook, which makes sense. And now she needs to play queen to c2? Are you sure? Doesn't that just line you up this way? I guess... See, that's what I would be thinking about right now, is trying to get my knight here to block this rook from coming through. But I would be thinking incorrectly. Okay. Well, she played the third best move, which was to take that pawn. That's kind of... Now you're stuck, though, right? Or is she hoping to pull a surprise here? They're even on material. After all this, they're exactly even on material with completely symmetrical pawns. They both have A and B pawns and E, F, G, H. Wow. Rook C to C8. It says to pull that rook back now. And that's what Yifan plays. Wow. Okay. Oh, because the knight move threatened the rook. Wow, I didn't even see that. Okay, I'm tired, I guess. And this pulls it back here where the two rooks support each other and makes this knight ineffectual. Wait, no, I was going to say this pawn's not hanging. Well, it is kind of, because you could take that, and then you're attacking the queen. But then they would take, and you would take, and then they would get your knight. So yeah, the pawn's not hanging. Okay. But that's what Stockfish says her best move is. And let them take your queen and check to get your knight out of trouble. And when they move out of check, then you take the queen back. Wow. That's what Stockfish is suggesting. She did not play that. She put the knight back here, I guess going after this pawn. But now look, she's -4 now. And she's got less than 15 seconds left right here. Okay. Is that what she plays? It's not the best move. Look at that. Oh, wow. Again, Stockfish is brutal. Stockfish says go right here. Plant your queen right there on D2 and make them take you. And then you'll have a passed pawn right there. Well, Yifan played the next best thing, which is just go ahead and take the queen. Get the queens off the board. Take with the F rook, which now you have an open file. That makes sense. I get that. That leaves this pawn hanging. She's not supposed to take it, though. Stockfish says bishop to b3. Okay, I understand that. Pinning the knight to the rook, basically immobilizing all three pieces to some extent. Wow. And she found it. You can't move this rook up here to help protect because of that pawn. And you've got this pointed right here at that. That's hard. What does she need to do? It says just go ahead and move the knight this way. And that's what she did. Okay. Carissa Yip now with 10 seconds left. Yeah. You have to give up the rook. That's what Yifan does. Take back with the other rook, I assume. Yes. And now, what does black do? Rook to c3. Makes sense. Okay. Normally, at this point in the game, you're starting to think about rooks on the 7th, but you can't put the rook on the 7th just yet because of the knight. The knight's guarding that square. But putting rook here, well, second would if you're white, but putting it on the 3rd rank instead of the 2nd rank, you're hitting both of those pieces, and when one of them moves, you can't move the knight back here to protect the pawn because then it would be hanging. Okay, I get that. Is that what she played? She did not play that. She played the second best move, which was bringing the other rook. Because now that you're up a piece, you want to make, or she's up in exchange, so making equal trades makes sense. And Stockfish says, don't do it, don't do it, but Carissa Yip did it. And she takes back. Now you pick up another pawn, is your only hope. She's got 7 seconds left. Now do you bring the rook here? That's one of the top 2 suggestions? Okay, I don't feel so bad. I've learned a little bit about chess, and that is what she does. And you've got to protect the pawn, right? Okay, that makes sense. And now it says go after that one. It can't get away. There's nothing you can do. Wait, no, it's changed its mind. It's changed its mind. It says to bring your king. Whichever way you want, start bringing the king or that. And that's what Yifan plays because this pawn can't get away. So you've got to wipe out white's A and B pawns so that your own A and B pawns can get through. Best move is to check. That's what Carissa Yip does. King to f7 gets out of check and threatens the knight, so you have to move it. Not very many great places to put it. And now, wow. It says not even worry about this just yet. It says go ahead. We're in the end game now. Start bringing your king to the center, is what Stockfish says. Or take the pawn. You're not bad off if you take the pawn, which is what Yifan does. And, well, I mean, the knight's guarding this pawn, but you can't stop everything, right? You can't stop everything. But it says white here should play e4. And that's what Carissa Yip plays. But now you can check, right? It says, well, checking's okay. Rook to a2 check is fine. But still, bring your king. Bring your king to the center. Which one does she play? She doesn't play any of those. She's tired of that knight sitting there. Tells the knight to leave. Well, the knight leaves with check, which is why Stockfish was saying to go here. But now you basically force black to go there, to e6. Now the knight doesn't have to move because it's protected, but now you're not protecting this pawn anymore. It says to bring your king. Is that what she does? No, she runs away with her knight. But I think that gives up some pawns, doesn't it? And that's what Yifan found that. Okay. See, I think I understand some of this in-game stuff a lot better than I understood a lot of the middle game stuff. Maybe part of it is because your options are really limited. There are only a couple of choices there that made any sense at all. Because this whole time you've been trying to get rid of white's A and B pawns so you can advance your own. This makes sense. That pawn's hanging too. You can't protect. Well, you can't protect the B pawn at all. The only way you can protect that pawn is this way, but that just forces the rook to do what it came to do. So it says just keep bringing your king. Is what it says. Is that what she did? Yes. And now take the B pawn. That's what she does. Yifan is on her way to having 2 passed pawns, and Carissa Yip is down to 3.6 seconds. So it says her best move is actually knight to d2, but no. It's changed its mind. f5 is best. f5 check. Well, that's what Carissa Yip played. f5 check, which delays the inevitable. I think that's why that's the best move. It forces a response from black. Black can't come forward because your knight's guarding that square. Not sure what would be the best move. d6, it says. d7, d6. Well, it keeps changing its mind. Any of those squares are just fine. Does what does Yifan do? She picked one of those. Okay. And okay, now it doesn't want to go back to D2 anymore. Stockfish wants to go here. Oh, to keep chasing the queen, to keep chasing the king, I guess, and also maybe guard against passing of the A pawn. That's my guess as to why it's suggesting the knight to go there. Is that what she played? No. She decided to bring her king. I don't know how good that is. I mean, it protects this pawn, but you're already protecting that pawn. Maybe trying to protect a pawn push once this rook gets out of the way, but the rook's not going to get out of the way. I don't think. You can't move this pawn. This rook's just going to let this pawn go by, isn't it? Yeah, A5 is the best move. That's what Yifan plays. All right. I'm understanding quite a bit of this. Quite a bit. Knight to E5 is the best move. She plays that. I assume aiming for a fork on C6. But I mean, they're just going to move, right? It says go ahead and play here now. And that is what Yifan does. Now you can't, I mean, you can check it there, but Stockfish, oh yeah, Stockfish says might as well try it. Or back here. Either one of those. Either attack the king uselessly or attack the rook uselessly. That are only options at that point. Let's see, did she choose one of those? She did. And she's got 1.3 seconds left. And King C5 was played. And then Carissa Yip ran out of time. Okay, well, again, this was a game in the Women's Speed Chess Championship 2022. Played this week on chess.com, or last week, depending on when you're watching this video. And between Hou Yifan and Carissa Yip of Massachusetts. Yifan, I believe, is from China. So I feel like I learned a few things. I got a little bit of an encouragement from the fact that I did understand many of the moves they made. I guessed some of the moves, and some of the ones that I couldn't guess, I understood. Obviously, there were a few I didn't understand, or I probably guessed wrong about what the point of them was. But anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something too. And way back at the beginning, I asked anybody, I think it was C5, when the pawn pushed to C5. I didn't understand the point of that move. So if any of you understand that one, feel free to share it with me. Once again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.